to show some final, more intermediate level changes, things we can do using eleventy. I had mentioned, hopefully you won't have to touch the templates too much, but as your blog expands or you just want to make some changes, definitely be a nice thing to have some familiarity with, right? So I'm looking at this post page and I've pulled up the posts template here. And like I said earlier, all this is doing is taking the content that's coming from that markdown file and putting it into these HTML divs that can be rendered by your browser on the page when it all gets built together. So I'm looking at this and maybe I think I don't want this date to be first. I want it to come after this link. How can I make that change here using the template page? Well, I can see that the template engine here is going through this collections.posts, and for every post within that, it's building this link. And here we have the date coming from the post data, and it's going to something called the HTML date string. We can investigate that later. But I'm going to grab that because I want to move where it comes. So remove that, and we can see in the preview it gets rid of the date. Then we can just stick it in here after the link. And then it shows up there on that other side. And that's kind of the idea for making these changes to the template. Now let's take a look at this collections.posts. What is that? How is that being defined? We have this folder called posts. So somehow every post that's in that folder is being populated into this collections.posts. And this happens in this eleventy.js file. So this is like the one JavaScript file that you would touch working on eleventy, this demo blog. The rest is Markdown or just templating, but here's actually some JavaScript at long last. And here's that HTML date string we encountered. Just take note of that. But here's what I'm looking for this collections.posts. This is where posts are being added to the collection object that gets iterated through. So we're looking for every Markdown file that has a tag of posts. So we can see, if we edit this file, we see it has that posts tag. And so that's how eleventy knows to include it in that collections.post. So it's not as simple as like going through all the files in a folder. It's actually grouping files based on what their tag is, and then based on how that's been defined in the eleventy.js file. So we could rename this, right? We could rename it blog posts, and then suddenly we would need to update this. Or we could change what the tag is. We could change that tag, and then we'd have to update how these things are tagged to re-include it in that new collection. News, not new. And then hopefully that would be refound and added. Cool, so those are some of the more, I don't know why it's not live updating, but that's kind of like where some of the more intermediate stuff lives with using eleventy.